Hey, Bills Mafia. We know there's only one topic every day. All Bills, all the time. And now Matt Beauvais and Sal Capaccio are going really deep, talking Bills all year long, because it's always game day in Buffalo.
Back from down south, Sal Capaccio, Matt Beauvais, back with you on It's Always Game Day in Buffalo from good old Western New York. It was a nice trip, though, Matt. You and I were just talking a little off the air. I think people could tell on the video side, maybe both of us, but for sure I could tell you got some sun, pal.
Well, I got burnt, and I'm just not built to be in the sunlight as much as I was. But hey, that's okay. It turned into a little bit of a tan. I'm sure it will be gone within the next couple days, and then I'm going to look like Casper the Ghost again. So here we are.
You know, it's great, obviously, getting to some warm weather when it's that time of year here and colder. But there's a lot of work. We were working a lot, but we can work outside a little bit, right? I mean, a lot of the work is inside, but you can work outside. And that's what we did. And we had a chance to do that. And it was nice getting some of that sunshine, but it was a lot of work. There's a lot going on. I mean, a lot happening at the owners' meetings, obviously, that we touched on a lot of it, but now it kind of carries us through for a little while here before the draft, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And I do feel like everything with the NFL offseason kind of goes in waves. And once the season is done, I always think of the little different milestones that we hit. I think of the combine as kind of the first one. Owners meetings is the second one. Then we get to the draft. And then after that, that's the schedule. Then you got all the offseason workouts and the OTAs and the mini camp and all the stuff that comes with that. But to me, it's kind of those big 4 milestone things. And then after the schedule, everything is a bit of a blur until they report to training camp.
So we're going to get to a lot of this stuff. We're going to talk a little bit about what happened back in Buffalo here in a moment. And then I have a fun exercise from Matt I want to get into a little bit later. Before we do that, though, I mean to be like somber or anything like that, but I have a personal question. It's on a somber note.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been a pallbearer? I have to be a pallbearer, and I've been asked to be at my best friend's mom's funeral. Yeah. We're recording this on Sunday night, everybody, April 6th, and literally tomorrow will be the first time. I'm 52 years old. I've been to funerals for friends, for family members, for friends of family members, for family members of friends. And this is the first time that I've ever been asked to, and I'm honored to be a pallbearer, and I've never been one.
Yeah, no, I've been several times. I had a run, let's see, not a great run, but within 6 months, 2 years ago, my wife lost her grandfather, grandmother, and then my dad. So all 3 of those, pallbearers in all 3 of them. So I believe it's called, I don't want to get it wrong, but it's called like a corporal work of mercy. It is like something to help bury someone is, like a very, very respected thing in the faith. So after doing 3 in 7 months, I was like, I think I can basically walk on water at this point.
You were a pallbearer for your dad's funeral?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was. Okay, it was, yeah.
I don't know if that's, I apologize for not knowing this. I don't know if that's normal for sons to be for their fathers or mothers. When my father died, I was 19, so I was not, and I was not asked to be, and I was not.
I don't think it would have been weird either way, because I think you could have made the argument that I would have just been in the church while he was coming into the church. So I was a pallbearer for my dad, and then we did the eulogy as my mom, my sister, and I, so all 3 of us. So yeah, no, I've done it, unfortunately, a handful of times. It is a very, very, it's an honor to be asked. It's not something you ever want to have to do given the circumstance, but knowing what you're doing, especially because of the relationship you might have or probably have with, whoever the funeral is for, I think is really meaningful.
Yeah. Well, that will be my first experience. And like you said, I am honored, but I just don't want to do anything wrong, I guess. You know what I mean? And I guess that won't happen.
Nothing you can do wrong. Right. Just lift. Don't let go. That would be the only thing. Don't do that wrong.
I got you. No doubt about it. All right. So Matt and I are, as I said, recording this on Sunday night. So one of the reasons why we're coming at you now, we're going to have another one for you a little bit later in the week. I'm going to actually be gone for about a week going on vacation, but also coming up soon this week is our yearly podcast. It's, I think, our favorite, I would say, generally. Yes, and I think a lot of the listeners and viewers' favorite. We're going to talk to Mike North. Mike North is one of the head schedule makers of the National Football League. We are scheduled to do that this week. So look for that podcast later this week. Listen for that podcast later this week. I'm very excited, Matt. And what I'd like to do this year is throw it out to the listeners. If there's a question that you'd like us to ask that we've never really touched on in the past, tweet us at Sal Sports or at Matt Bove, Matt_Bove. You can see it on the crawler at the bottom there if you're on the video side. But I think there's always things that we don't think about that maybe we should have asked in years past, even with me going back the 3 or 4 years I did it with him before he was on the podcast the last couple of years.
Yeah, every year I think is something new to ask him. Every year he gives us a little bit more insight, and the feedback from the episode is almost always exceptional. I mean, we love it because we're schedule geeks. I mean, we're talking about the schedule probably the week after the season ends of, hey, I think they might start the season against this team. So I always really like to get his perspective of one. It's kind of the first clue we get of how to piece the Bills schedule together or what we think the Bills schedule could look like, but also just from a league standpoint. I mean, there's so many different things that he's told us over the years about last year, the Christmas Day game, or the flexing of now playoff, like just so many different things that he kind of lets us in on. And I think the people who listen and watch really appreciate that too. I had so many people who I work with or who follow us who send me messages when it's done. It's like, hey, Aaron Minkowski, he's our meteorologist to Channel 7. He was training for an ultra marathon last year, and he was no idea how great it was to just listen to that podcast for 2 hours while I was swimming in open water. And I'm like, hey, I'm glad we could provide you a little entertainment while you're dealing with the agony of doing that.
No doubt. I think that's very cool. I've heard from people the same way. You actually told me a couple years ago when he was on with me before we had him on together that you did that. Just kind of sit in the car and listen. Thad Brown told the same thing, that he's done that with us and our buddy from Rochester. So there's a lot that we can get to, and there's a lot of things that we want to talk about and ask him about. One of the first things that we'll talk about and ask him about, one of the more pressing, interesting items, will be the international games. We still don't know who the away team is. I don't think he's going to tell us if the Bills are playing or not playing in Ireland or anywhere else, but I am curious about the process there.
Yeah, I'm curious about the international games, and I'm also very curious because I don't know if you saw the report from earlier in the week that the Chiefs are now asking to play on Christmas Day. So I'm interested to get his perspective of if that's what this is going to become. Is Christmas going to be basically an extension of what Thanksgiving is, where on Thanksgiving the Lions are playing and the Cowboys are playing, and then there's one other game that's available? Is Christmas now going to become that? Is Christmas going to be, hey, the Chiefs are playing and then maybe one other team is playing every single time, and then the final game is a rotation? I don't know how it's going to work out, but I'm really interested. I'm also really interested if the Bills are somehow involved, because last year they did not get a holiday game. This year, I would feel like it's a safe bet that they get either Thanksgiving or Black Friday, and then potentially Christmas Day.
I agree with you. All good topics. If you want to have us ask a question, we can't promise we'll get to your question. Obviously, it has to be something that we're kind of comfortable with asking Mike North. We don't want to put him in a position working for the league, but you can definitely ask us to ask him, or something you're curious about. Maybe we could answer that through all of our conversations in the past with Mike North. You can tweet at us at Sal Sports, at Matt_Bove. I do have one kind of question about the schedule for you right now. Do you think, what are the chances the Bills and Chiefs are again on CBS? Because they've been for the last 3 years. Last 3 years, Bills Chiefs has been on CBS.
As somebody who works at an ABC affiliate, I would love it to go to the ABC ESPN family, but I'm not holding my breath. I feel like it's going to be, just because it has done such massive numbers. It feels like it's one of those things, if it's not broken, don't fix it. And it does feel like that is one of the games that CBS gets that they are probably the most excited about having for the entire season. So my guess is that that's a CBS game, but then maybe ESPN, ABC, and Sunday Night Football get Josh Lamar and Josh Burrow. You asked the question a couple weeks ago of the Eagles, Ravens, Bengals, and Chiefs games, how many of them are played at 1:00? I don't think any of them. I think 2 of them are played at 4:25 and 2 of them are played in primetime. And they'll probably split those primetimes up between NBC and then ABC.
Yeah, I think that's a good guess. We'll see about that. So earlier this week, I'm proud and happy to say, on my birthday, on April 4th, the Bills held,
by the way.
Thank you. The Bills held what's called a topping out ceremony. What's funny is April 4th, 1972, exactly a year before I was born, groundbreaking on the current Highmark Stadium on that day, April 4th, 1972, which is crazy, Matt, right? Because then April 4th, 2025 was the topping out ceremony of the new Highmark Stadium. I was there, and it was pretty awesome. It was a unique experience. I'd never been to something like that. I kind of compared it to some people to the opposite of watching the ball drop on New Year's Eve, which I've been there as well. Instead of the ball going down and then, hey, we're here for a new year, it went up. Hey, we're ready for a new stadium. Obviously, Terry Pagula was there. with his daughter Laura on stage, Pete Gwelly, COO of the Bills. And then you had Governor Kathy Hochul, Erie County Executive Mark Poloncarz, and NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell. This was a pretty big event. A lot of people from the NFL, from the Bills, from the state, from the county, and then, of course, I would say thousands of construction workers as well. Great job by them. Thank you so much for all of them and their hard work for all of this. Obviously, we all see the project happening. Pretty cool event to see happen right here. And honestly, for a lot of people, I know you included, but me going back even further, a day that many of us never thought we'd see come today.
Yeah, no kidding. And the thing that I always think about when it comes to the new stadium is the, locking in that the Bills aren't going anywhere anytime soon. I actually found myself going through my camera roll on the flight the other day back from Florida. If I'm ever delayed, I just go into my camera roll and look at old pictures. And I had a video from the day or two before the Chiefs playoff game, the AFC Championship game. And there's that guy, Al, who works at Al's Bar and Grill, owns it in Kansas City, in Parkville. And I interviewed him, and he talked about, and he's such a fantastic interview. And he said, Buffalo having the Bills is like the nerdy kid in high school getting a date with the prom queen. Like, it just doesn't make sense. But once you have it, you never want to let it go. And that's how I feel about Buffalo. It's like this new stadium keeps this team here for most of our lives, which is incredible to be able to say that, knowing where they were 15 years ago, 10 years ago, before Terry Pegula took over the team. So, yeah, it's incredible to see the progress. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like this is kind of the halfway point. They're now kind of at the halfway of now switching to cosmetics and secondary steel and some of the more kind of like detailed things that they need to do.
Yeah, the way John Polka, who's one of the heads of the project, described it from the Bills, yes, it's the construction steel. It's the last beam. There is some more kinds of steel that's going to go in, but really, when you talk to people who are on the project, it's really, like you said, I think that's a great word, cosmetic. Things that are happening inside the stadium with the locker rooms and the concessions and the bathrooms and all those things that go along with a stadium. I actually had a chance today on Sunday to drive past the stadium with my wife and son and say, hey, look what's look at this is where we were. I was the other day, and look what's happening. And they were kind of blown away because they have not been down there since really the season ended, right? And it is going up very, very quickly. There's gonna be a lot of changes for everybody. I talked with Andy Major, one of the VPs of the Bills. He's always in charge of he's stadium operations, basically. All the things with traffic patterns and stuff like that. We're gonna have a lot more changes this year, just like we did last year, and people are just gonna have to kind of work that out and understand that as we head towards the last year and during the last year of this current Highmark Stadium, which is also incredible to think about.
And there's so many different layers that go into that. Think about when the schedule comes out, you also will see the schedule and you'll go, okay, you'll circle, could this potentially be the last game played inside Highmark Stadium, depending on how the year plays out? Because, it's not even a foregone conclusion, right? They've won the division the last 5 years, but if they make the playoffs, they don't win the division, then maybe there's not a home playoff game anymore or whatever it is. The dream scenario, if you're a Bills fan, is that they host the AFC Championship, they win, and then they win the Super Bowl, and they're raising a banner as they open up the new stadium. But it is going to be an added layer to the season of just like, whoa, there's 9 home games in the regular season. But after a couple of them, the countdown's going to be on of like, wow, like 5 games left, 4 games left. That's going to be crazy.
Yeah, and I would say, too, that, from the Bills standpoint, we talked about this last week a little bit. My one-on-one with Pete Gwelly, your one-on-one with Pete Gwelly, we've talked to him a lot about this stuff. They're very intentional about how they want to treat the last year of the stadium. So I think that's something to remember this year. Like, if you're going to a game this year, and if you're not, maybe think about it. Think about going. If you haven't been to a game in a while, if you've never been to a game, especially, I think this is to be a great year to go. You can never go again after this year, but they're going to be very intentional, I should say, about making this last year correct.
Yeah, and what I want to do, and this is like such a minor thing, but I always think back to my childhood. So when I was a little kid, I never went to the Odd. Like, I never spent any time at the Odd. So when people talk about the Odd, I'm always like, yeah, no, never been. My daughter is too young to go to a Bills game. She's 2. By the time we're in the summer, she's 2.5. I think I want to bring her to Kids Day.
Yeah.
Get a picture with her.
Love
and
it.
Just be able to say, like, hey, like, you were at the stadium once before it closed, because the only thing she'll remember is the new stadium. So, I'm still in this role. I have a job where I'll be at these games. I want to be like, hey, Daddy brought you to a game at the old stadium before they knocked it down, and you never know that exists.
100% you should do that. You will have that picture forever and cherish it. And when the Bills are at this new stadium in their 25th and 26th year of the 30-year lease, your daughter's going to look and go, look at the show her friends the picture of you and her at that stadium. That you absolutely have to do that.
Yeah, and if you haven't been to a game, if you're listening to this podcast and you haven't been, I understand NFL tickets are expensive. I understand that it's not an easy thing to get to at times. It is a big time commitment. Try and get there if you can swing it, because there's something different about the current stadium. I'm not saying that they don't need a new one, because they definitely need a new stadium, but the atmosphere at a Bills game is like nothing I can compare it to. It really is just awesome. The vibes are just so immaculate. It's hard to explain.
Hey, we thank you for downloading us wherever you listen to your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, the Odyssey app. Thank you so much. Subscribe, throw us a nice rating, give us a comment or two, a positive comment. We'd love that, but we appreciate any feedback. And you can do the same on YouTube. We are on YouTube. We are at 12,000 subscribers, I think, now on the YouTube page. Thank you so much. We're right there. So thank you very much. At Sal Sports on YouTube, you can see us. And a show like today, this podcast, you're going to want to be more on the visual side, because I'm going to throw some graphics up. I want to show Matt as we talk through them as well. So if you get a chance to kind of go to the YouTube side, you should want to do that when you can, especially for some of these ones that require a little bit more of a seeing some things. And in fact, the first one I'm going to do is, I'm going to say it this way. I don't want this to be a hockey podcast, obviously, but how much did you watch Wayne Gretzky?
None.
He was before you, right?
Yeah. None.
So last year was 97, 98, I think.
Yeah. So 97, I would have been 5.
Right. Exactly.
So I'm not watching.
I mean, I think that you know how great he was as a
yes,
hockey
of course.
player. I mean, I still hold him in the greatest regard, even though Alex Ovechkin broke the NHL goal scoring record on this day, a few hours before we're recording. I think it's amazing. One of the most amazing stats, Matt, is they've scored the same amount of goals in one different game.
It's incredible.
1,487 for Gretzky, 1,486 for Alex Ovechkin, right?
Isn't that unbelievable? It's so, I mean, it's so impressive. And I am very, very happy that I was able to watch Ovechkin break the record live.
Yes.
I put my daughter down. She was taking a nap, and I was like, hey, when she's napping, I'm going to try and nap. And she had just started to wake up, so I could hear her on the monitor starting to get up. So I get up and I'm on the couch and I'm sitting there and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to sit down for 10 more minutes before I can go and get her, and the game's on. And it happens. And I'm like, I was screaming. I was like, thank goodness I was able to see this live. And it was, the NHL knocked it out of the park with the ceremony that they did, the celebration immediately following. It was awesome. Job well done, NHL.
I tweeted the other day, Gretzky goals, games, Ovechkin goals, games, just to prove the point of, holy cow, how crazy wild of a stat is. They played pretty much the exact same number of games. They have the exact same number of goals. It's wild. Some people thought I was just comparing the two players and, oh my God, now do assists. Dude, I'm a Gretzky guy. Like, I think Gretzky's the greatest who ever played. But I want to just show everybody who might not have realized, this is Wayne Gretzky's career stat log. The black is when he led the league.
Yeah.
Okay. Look at the assists.
That's
Look
crazy.
at the points, Matt.
Yeah. The 85,
212.
The 85 season, when he had
215,
163 assists in a season.
God.
Is just, and then 212. I mean, that 92 goals and 100. He was just, it's hard to even comprehend that level of dominance.
It's incredible. And I'm a huge Gretzky guy. I'm not taking anything away from Alex Ovechkin, but it's not a record that I totally wanted to see broken. I'll be really honest with you, because I basically, love Gretzky and watching him so much. You hold those records near and dear to your heart. And it's one of those things where you want to tell your kids, no, you don't understand how great this person was, right? So I think that's why it was a little tough for me to watch this chase. But ultimately, when it happened, you resign to the fact that it's going to happen. You root for him and you root for history, like we saw today.
Well, and I think that's what's happening a little bit with Bills fans, actually, as crazy as it sounds. It's a weird comparison, but like Josh Allen is shattering every record that in franchise history has ever existed, and will probably finish with more rushing touchdowns than any Bills player. Not any Bills quarterback, any Bills player. How far is he away from, or does he already have that record?
Hold on, and I'll show you had no idea what I was going to do with you tonight with this topic.
None.
You have none. What an amazing segue.
Well,
Matt Bove here tonight.
Clearly, we're good at this after a while.
Yeah, okay, Matt had no idea. I told Matt tonight, so everybody knows. I texted him and said, "I got a great topic, fun topic for you."
Yeah,
you are talking about this, and here is the topic. Matt, I want to talk about maybe some of the most unbreakable Buffalo Bills records.
Oh, that's fantastic!
All right,
this is incredible.
And I actually have put together some graphics for some current records, either career or season, not game, just career or season.
Yeah,
that I think could be unbreakable, and I want your thoughts on these.
Okay.
Yes. You ready to do this?
Yes. Well done.
So let's start with this. So I think we would both probably agree this is the most unbreakable record right here on your screen.
Yeah.
Bruce Smith had 171 career sacks in a Buffalo Bills uniform.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be. I just, with how long he played, what was it, 14 seasons with the Bills? Yeah, that's not getting touched. I mean, look at how ridiculous it is that he's at 171, and the second highest sack total from a guy playing for the Bills is Aaron Schobel with 78. That's crazy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, for sure.
What did Bruce finish with? 200?
200 even.
200 on the dot?
Yeah.
Were all of the rest of them in Washington?
I believe so. Yeah, I don't think he played for anybody else. And Matt, that's what, look at when we talk about this, that's why I say Bruce Smith left Buffalo. He's over 30 years old. People talk about, over 30 years old. I mean, like, he still had a great career. I mean, after that.
How long did he play in Washington after he left Buffalo?
Ooh, I'll go look at that particular stat. I think, see, when did Bruce Smith play? Let me just grab that for you here. But you're right. I mean, the only guy that's here, while I do that, why don't you take a look at this real quick and say, where is the guy? Describe it maybe for the listeners who aren't watching. Like, where's the closest guy who's recent? That's Jerry Hughes, right?
Jerry Hughes. And Jerry Hughes has 53 sacks. And I've always made the argument that Jerry Hughes is criminally underrated for how valuable he was to the Bills. And think about that. He had 53 sacks from 2013 to 2021. And Bruce Smith had 120 more sacks than what he had, which is just absolutely bananas. And then I look at some of the other players right now, obviously a very different position, but Kyle Williams, he has 48 and a half sacks. He played for 12 years, defensive tackle, different than an edge rusher. I understand that. Yeah, it's crazy to me how just like that nobody's touching that. I mean, that would take, if you had 15 sacks a year, that would still take you 13 years to beat that stat.
15 years in Buffalo for Bruce Smith, 4 years in Washington. And let me just go back to the stat about 30. He had 108 sacks after the age of 30, Matt. 108.
You know what's fascinating? I'm glad I asked the question because I had no idea that Bruce Smith played 4 seasons in Washington. I thought it was like a season. Didn't Thurman go play a year in Miami?
He did, and it didn't even last. But Thurman never actually played in Buffalo in a Dolphins uniform because he got hurt.
Okay. Did Andre Reed play anywhere else?
He did. He went to Denver maybe for a year, and that was about it, I think.
Okay. So Jim was only Buffalo.
Yeah.
And then besides
and Steve Tasker was only Buffalo as well. So all right, here's another one for you. All right? I'm going to have a few of these. You tell me. These are some that I thought could be good. Do you think this record? I don't think this record will ever be broken. This is rushing yards in a season.
No.
O.J. Simpson, 2003. I just think with the way his game is played, I can't see it happening.
No, it's weird because with the way the game is played, even with the additional game, I mean, we're talking about 2,000 yards in 14 games, which is crazy. Even with 17 games now, I don't see it getting broken anytime soon. Obviously, it's not going to be broken while Josh Allen is the quarterback.
That's the point. Yes.
That's Josh Allen is this team's quarterback. It's not going to be broken, but I think the league and the game is going to have evolved even more by the time he's not the Bills quarterback. I just don't see that happening. That's a huge, huge accomplishment. I mean, you're talking about what did Saquon do this year? Just over.
Well, no, Saquon beat that. Saquon beat that. He almost had the
all-time rushing record.
I think people might be listening, pushing back on, wait a minute, Saquon beat that record. I just think it's so rare to have that. And like you said, if you have a quarterback like Josh Allen, you're not going to have that near that.
Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, it's not impossible because of the 17 games, and who knows, maybe the Bills get the second coming of Barry Sanders at some point, but I just don't really plan on that ever getting broken.
All right, that was a season. What about career rushing yards? Think this will ever be broken? Here's Thurman Thomas, almost 12,000 career rushing yards. Next closest is OJ with 10. Then Fred Jackson is in third place with less than half, but with just over half that.
No, I don't think it gets broken just because, once again, longevity of what Thurman was able to accomplish and the way the game has changed. It wouldn't be impossible, but I just don't see that happening. I mean, you're talking about 12 years of 1,000 yards or more on average. And how many running backs are playing that long these days, right? Everybody always talks about the wall that running backs hit in their late 20s. Like, there's very, very few running backs that are, you know what? Actually, bring that up real quick because I want to see something. So when I think
I'll make this point too. Certainly not under this regime because they don't use running backs for more than 4 or 5 years, really.
So this is why I was interested. So bring up the okay. So Thurman had just under 12,000 yards rushing in his career, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
In Derrick Henry's career, he has about 500 yards less. And Derrick Henry is an all-time great running back who has kind of beaten Father Time. So it would take the Bills to get a guy like that and then to still do it one more year on top of what Derrick Henry has done.
And with one organization.
Yeah, so that's why it's just like, whew.
Yeah, because look at for this stat, everybody, like Thurman's short time in Miami doesn't count. This is just in a Bills uniform.
Yeah.
Career rushing yardage leader, 11,938, just shy of 12,000 yards rushing, 10,000 for OJ, and then less than 6,000 for Fred Jackson, who's number 3 on this list. Okay, let's go through the air, though. How about receiving? Andre Reed, 13,000 plus yards. Next closest is 4,000 yards less, almost exactly. 9,000 for Molds. Lee Evans then at 5. What a huge drop here. If you're looking on your screen, you go 13,000, 9,000, 5,900, 5,300 for Stephon Diggs.
I don't think it's getting broken, but I'm not digging my heels into the sand as much on this one, just because I saw what a player like Stephon Diggs can do. Mm-hmm. And you know what I think about? I think about, like, could they ever stumble into a Jamar Chase type player? And I don't know how you would be able to do that because of how good they are. But if you ever found that guy and he could play the next 6 or 7 years with Josh Allen and then transition to a new quarterback, I don't think it's impossible, because we're talking about those guys now getting 15, 16, 1,700 yards a year. So do I think it's going to happen? No. Do I think it's impossible? No, I don't.
All right. How about receiving touchdowns? Andre Reed at 86. Eric Molds, 48. Lee Evans, 43. Stephon Diggs, 37. Now, this is probably the same point you just made, right? Yeah, Stephon Diggs in 4 years had 37. With the way Josh Allen throws the football, if you have a guy for 8 to 10 years, I guess you could break it if you're looking at Andre Reed's record.
Well, we think about, right, what's a really good season for receiving touchdowns right now? 13, we'll say, is probably a really good season. So if you do that 6 times, you're at 78, right? So, like, it would take almost a decade of elite wide receiver play, but it's not impossible, because even though Andre Reed did it 86 times, 86 receiving touchdowns with the Bills, different era. Teams weren't passing as much as they are now. And with more games, I think that one could be broken. But it would take, we're talking about a Hall of Famer, it would probably take another Hall of Fame type player to be able to get to that level.
All of these graphics, by the way, courtesy of Pro Football Reference. So great site, by the way.
Can you bring up that graphic one more time? I'm going to show my age really quickly, and I'm really sorry. I have never heard of Albert DeBenion.
AFL. That's okay. AFL. Albert DeBenion.
I can see
he was great in the AFL.
60 to 68. So the timeline is, obviously AFL, but had never heard of him. Also, I've heard the name Bob Chandler, but I don't know anything about him. The one that's always interesting to me, and Paul Hamilton and I have argued about this, not argued, but he always says that, like, if Jerry Butler stayed healthy, he's the guy who, could have been exceptional, but he was always hurt.
Jerry Butler's the reason I wore number 80 in high school.
Really? He was that good?
He was that good.
Okay.
Jerry Butler, you know about his final play, right?
I don't.
Jerry Butler, look how long he played. He didn't play long. He played, 7 years?
7 years.
29 touchdown catches. In an era where it wasn't passing, now.
They're not slinging it all over the place.
Jerry Butler's final game, his final play, he caught a great touchdown pass in the end zone on a post pattern between 2 Miami Dolphins, and his leg was snapped.
Oh, no kidding.
He never played again.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Man,
He actually went on to work for the Bills, and then for the Browns, he became like in the player personnel department or something like that. So I've got a chance to meet Jerry Butler, and I told him, hey, you're the reason I wore number 80 in high school. So
I
really
love
cool.
that.
By the way, Jerry Butler, Jerry Rice, Steve Largent, 80 was always the number when you were growing up, right? Eric Moulds, obviously, he wore number 80 as well. Okay. We'll get to a few here that I think are really interesting. And how about this? This is one I got from the Bills' actual media guide record book. I don't know if this is ever going to be broken. Consecutive games with a touchdown. 14 for OJ Simpson.
No, it won't be.
He scored a touchdown in 14 straight games.
Now, this is not passing, right? Obviously.
Any game, any type of touchdown. No, that's correct. No, if you throw the touchdown, you have to score the ball.
Yeah. So, you could conceivably think, is Josh Allen going to get 15 straight games of a rushing touchdown? But, no, he won't, because there'll be a couple other random things mixed in. That's a bananas stat. It's not going to happen anytime soon.
The next closest, by the way, is half that. Cookie Gilchrist, who had 7. He also had 6, along with Rob Riddick, who is Louis Riddick's brother, by the way, from ESPN.
Oh, okay.
Yep, Thurman Thomas twice, CJ Spiller, and look at that name on the list. Carlos Williams from 2015. Remember that rookie year we put together?
Oh, yeah. Carlos Williams took the league by storm for that 1 year.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, it's an incredibly complicated question because of, everything that happened. Mm-hmm. OJ was that good, huh?
Yeah. Now, he was a little before my time as well. But yes. And if you talk to Bulldog on WGR, he will tell you, he'd be a good person to ask. Vic Carucci, guys like that, who watched him play a little bit more than I did. He was at his tail of his career, right when my formative years. I kind of remember him getting traded to San Fran in 1980, I think it was. But yes, he was that good. He was the best.
Yeah. And
I would say this, Matt, almost anybody that's watched the Bills for long enough, pre-Josh Allen, okay, would tell you, if people say, who's the greatest player in Bills history, almost anybody would say it's Bruce, then OJ.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. How much more? This is incredibly subjective. I don't want to take us down this rabbit hole because this would finish the podcast. So we'll finish doing what we're doing, and then I'll ask you the question at the end.
Okay. All right. Here we go. I got a couple more here I want to throw at you. All right. This one here, I said, oh my God, there's no way. Could someone really do this? Despite the way that the ball is thrown around these days, the record for most interceptions in a Bills uniform is 40. 40 by Butch Bird, who did play in the NFL, not just the AFL, for like a year or two, 1964 to 1970.
What I'm looking at, Mark Kelso has 30 interceptions?
Yes. Amazing.
In 7 seasons?
Yes.
Shout out Mark Kelso. That's right. Incredible. No, I don't think that this one, could it be broken? Yeah, because you could have the longevity of somebody. But look at what Jordan Poyer. I know we're talking about a safety, not a corner. Jordan Poyer had 22. So he was halfway there. And Jordan Poyer had a 7-year career in Buffalo. So yeah, I just don't see anybody touching that. Guys don't get that many interceptions anymore.
No, it's incredible. 40 interceptions. You go down the list, you just said Poyer's there. I'm looking for recent guys. You have to go back to Nate Odoms, 1993. He finished his career. So same thing with Kelso, by the way. Who else is on there? 2006, Nate Clements is the closest, in this type of era, really this century, right?
Nate Clements was
23.
So good. For that flash of the pan that he was here. He was so good. He was kind of my peak of starting to watch football. And I'm like, man, that guy is just a difference maker.
By the way, could Butch Bird at least have had either one more or one less yard on interception returns? Look at what it says there.
Oh, yeah, that's creepy. I don't like
666 yards in returns.
Yeah, I don't like that. No,
5 pick sixes, by the way. So did Nate Clements. Nate Clements had 5 pick sixes. I believe that is the record. All right. I got one more for you. And I thought this was kind of funny, but oh my God, right? Let's hope it never gets broken. So last year, the Bills punter, Sam Martin, punted the ball 54 times. The record for a Buffalo Bill to punt the ball in a season is 101.
So Sam Martin did 54?
Yes.
Yeah, it could get broken, Sal. Because, one bad, terrible year. For all we know.
Look how long it's been.
I know.
The way the game is played now, touchbacks going to the 35, I don't know if it's ever going to be broke.
Yeah, so Mormon had 92 in 06, And it's not like that team was very good. So, I mean, it would take a historically bad team. But as somebody...
Schmidt, 2014 at 86.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody born and raised here, we both are.
Yeah.
I've watched some historically bad football over the years.
Yeah.
So I'll never say never when it comes to it on the bad end of the spectrum. I'm like, cautiously optimistic with the good things, but the bad things, I'm like, oh yeah, we'll probably be back there at some point.
Yeah, listen, here's part of the reason. It's not just being bad. Like I said, one of the reasons why the way the game is played, there's just not as many punts anymore. It's just by even with the extra couple games. And one of the really interesting things said to me by Darren Rizzi. Darren Rizzi is the special teams coordinator who is basically on the competition committee helping out with the kickoff stuff. I asked him about the kickoffs and the things like that. And he said, punts is something that has been drastically reduced because of the touchback. Punts actually have more injury rate, and they're trying to get less punts into the game. So I think that's also a big reason why I say I don't know if that'll ever be broken.
It would take 6 a game on average to get to 101. And that's when you think about that, man, punting on 6 possessions a game, that's pretty crazy to think that we could see that happen in the modern NFL. Never say never, though.
Yeah.
There's been some random quarterbacks who have played for the Bills, so I won't be shocked if when they're looking for their next guy, maybe that happens.
All right, so by the way, when we talk to Mike North, here's something I want you to think about. Maybe we can give him a suggestion, and we can take suggestions from anybody. Once they do go to an 18th game, it's going to happen, folks. They're going to go to an 18th game at some point. In fact, there's rumors it could happen in 2 years from now, go to 18 games in a season. How do you decide the 18th game?
It's a great question.
Because what they did for the 17th game was they said, we're going to rotate one division from the other conference in whichever place you finish in the same. My guess is they'll do the same, but with another division from the other conference.
That makes the most sense. That's
right?
Probably what they'll do. But I wish they did something like really creative. Like, they won't. But what about NFC opposite conference rivalry? Like, that's a thing. Like, that'd be amazing. If it's like, okay, you've got your division opponents who you play twice a year, and then you have an opponent in another conference that you play every year no matter what.
Okay, so if you did that, what you would do is you'd say all 4 teams in the AFC East, one of them matches up with a team in the NFC East, and you create a yearly rivalry.
Yes.
Same thing with the North and North, South and South, West and West. Who would it be for the Bills? It would have to be the Giants, New York.
You could, if it was the NFC East, it doesn't have to be the NFC East. Yeah.
No, I think you would have to you don't have to do it, but I think that most likely they would say, let's match up by geography if we want to actually create a rivalry.
Yeah.
They cross the divisions for the actual East versus East, North versus North, and so on.
The problem is the AFC East is such a weird division because of the Dolphins that there really isn't a Dolphins rivalry that you could throw in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would love it. I mean, it's not going to happen, but it would be awesome if the Bills and Lions played every year.
Ooh.
Right? You know what I mean?
Okay. So just pick a team. Yeah.
Yeah, just geographically, it would make sense if that every year they played against each other and it just alternated back and forth at what stadium it was.
So Bucks and Dolphins would make sense.
Yeah, exactly. Bucks and Dolphins would make sense. Eagles, Steelers would make sense.
Falcons and Jags.
Jets, Giants make sense. Falcons, Jags make sense. There's a lot of them that you can figure out. I don't think we'll get to that point, but that's what I would do. Or this would be great. Play an extra division game. Like the top 2 teams from the year before, you play 3 times. Everybody else you play twice. They won't do that, but it would be awesome.
Not only they do that. All right, and then finally, after this conversation we just had about the Bills, do you have what you've always thought is the most unbreakable record in sports?
It's probably the Cal Ripken record, right?
No, I don't think so. I think that's breakable. I don't know if it will ever be broken. I think it's breakable. If somebody really wanted to do it and just put a guy out there for an inning or 2 to make sure he keeps his streak alive, you could do it. But I do think the most unbreakable record, actual legit record, is a baseball record, and that is Cy Young, 511 career pitching victories. 511. To get 511 career wins, you'd have to win 25 games in a major league season for 20 straight years.
Yeah, that's crazy.
No one's ever doing that, ever.
No, nobody's ever going to do that. And the Cal Ripken record's crazy. He played 2,632 consecutive games played. That's absolutely bananas. The Cy Young one is probably it. My question to go off of this is, shouldn't we start renaming records? Because now, like the Rocket Richard in the NHL should probably be renamed for Alexander Ovechkin. He's the greatest goal scorer in NHL history. He should probably have the name for the record that goes to the greatest goal scorer in a particular season.
Sure, I get it.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Can I give you another one? Because it's also Cy Young. Cy Young also had the most ever losses, 315. I don't know if anybody's ever going to have that many. Matt, the guy had the most wins ever at 5'11", most losses at 315. Now, granted, back then they would pitch pretty much double headers, and they wouldn't matter. They would pitch all the time. So yeah, I think he has both those records are unbreakable.
Okay, so here's what I was going to ask you.
Okay,
and this could be an entire episode on its own.
Okay,
we're sitting there, we're talking about all of this stuff. What does Josh Allen have to do to be the best Bills player of all time? If he wins a Super Bowl, like if he leads the Bills to a Super Bowl, you can probably start to make the argument right away. Like if he wins a Super Bowl next year and retires, you could probably make the argument. I don't think it'd be a great argument, but you can make the argument. I mean, what more does the guy have to? He's breaking every single record in franchise history.
Okay, that's right. And you could make the argument. I think here's the nuance to it, though. If I compare him to the guy who I think is the greatest Bill ever, Bruce Smith.
Sure.
Bruce Smith is the greatest who ever did it in the league.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that's the difference. Josh Allen will break every single franchise record when it comes to passing. Maybe, who knows, rushing. Like, we'll see it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Bruce Smith is arguably, he's one of maybe the top 10 players who ever played in the NFL.
Yeah. See, this is where I wish it's weird because I don't wish that I was older, but as somebody who never watched Bruce Smith play, like I don't quite comprehend how good I can see 200 sacks, right, which is absurd. And knowing that a 10 sack season is ridiculously good. And to be like, okay, that person did that 20 times. So I understand it, but it's hard for me to kind of understand how good any of those guys from that era were, knowing what I see in Josh Allen, and then knowing that like the numbers don't always match up. It's a different game now. So of course Josh's stats are way more impressive than Jim Kelly's, but I know it's a different game. Like I'm not naive to that. The Bruce one he's the best Bill of all time, but Josh is trending in that direction.
I don't disagree with that. I do think, and to answer your question, because I always say this, Matt, it's what I've always said about Bill Belichick. There's a difference between greatest and most accomplished.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I don't think Bill Belichick is the greatest coach ever in the way that I think about greatest. He is the most accomplished. There's no doubt. And he's one of the greatest ever.
Yeah.
But this goes in the category most accomplished. If Josh Allen wins a Super Bowl, to answer your question, if he wins a Super Bowl, I think he's considered the greatest Bill ever.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, listen, obviously it's all about winning. And if he could ever lead them to that, it's also an influential thing. And now can't speak to something that I wasn't part of. And I'm sure that they were superstars, but with the internet, with the television contracts, with social media, like Josh Allen is right now, realistically, probably one of the top 10 might be a little bit too much of a stretch. One of the 20 most recognizable athletes in the world. Like seriously, like think about that perspective of.
But you still say that Haley Steinfeld is more popular.
What'd you say?
But you still say Haley Steinfeld's more famous.
Yeah, and I actually talked to Jay Skursky about this the other day, and he agrees. She is a glow. She was on. So I understand what Josh Allen does. Haley Steinfeld was on The Tonight Show last week. She was on Good Morning America getting interviewed. She's like on every red carpet ever. So she is a different level she is like actress fame. But Josh, I mean, in the NFL, which players in the NFL are more recognizable than Josh Allen right now? Patrick Mahomes, definitely. Tom Brady doesn't count anymore, but he would be up there. I don't know who else it would be.
You're right. The thing about football players is the reason this happens is they wear helmets. I know it sounds funny, but it's true.
Oh, it's absolutely true.
It's not like basketball players or baseball players even, who their faces and their features and their hair and everything is seen. Football players wear helmets. You don't really see them until they take their helmet off.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, obviously, the same thing with soccer. Soccer is the most popular sport in the world.
Sure.
Like Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, like those guys are absolutely global icons. Same thing with like LeBron and Steph Curry. Shohei Ohtani might be the most popular athlete in the world right now. But yeah, Josh is like at least in the conversation, which is crazy to think about.
We'll have this discussion, I'm sure, as the weeks and years roll by. In the meantime, thanks a lot again for downloading, subscribing, listening on the YouTube side at Sal Sports. You can see all those graphics we talked about with all the records. And once again, please tweet us at Sal Sports, at Matt_Bove. If you have a question that you'd like us to ask to Mike North when we talk to him, we're supposed to talk to him. Things change, maybe his schedule, whatever. He's a busy guy these days. We are supposed to scheduled to talk to him this week. So in the meantime, have a great rest of your week, everybody. And we'll talk to you again next time. And it's always game day in Buffalo.